Hello, everyone. Today I would like to discuss a subject that's very dear to my heart. It's No Child Left Behind. It's an educational bill that was passed in 2001 by George Bush, and then it was reauthorized by Barack Obama, and I believe it was 2010. I have here a poster board. First, I would like to explain to you what the NCLB, No Child Left Behind Act is. Um, I'm going to read the definition. Excuse me. It's guaranteeing the quality of public education for all children in the U.S. with an emphasis on increased funding for poor school districts and higher achievement for poor and minority students, with new measures that was put in place to hold schools accountable for the students' progress. And it also expands the role of standardized testing in Americans' public education from grades 3 through 8 to be tested on reading and math skills. Okay, first thing I did was I spoke with a teacher. She's a family member, and she teaches elementary school. And they are trying to get their numbers up so they can fall between the state's limits of quality education. Okay, so I found out that they receive a report card every year, and it has to do with the reading, math, and science skills of grades 4 through 8. And they do have something that's called AYP, I believe it is, and that's how how their standards are measured, and it's measured every year. Like I said, it's their annual year progress. That's what it is, AYP. And each school district is graded according to the student's progress on these tests: math, reading, and science. Okay. Now, I also spoke with a couple students, and I used to be in the daycare business years ago. I still keep in contact with some of the parents, and I speak with a lot of the little ones, and I have grandkids myself, and also family member kids who's in elementary school. Okay, so what I did was they base it on minorities, and I might have to stand up here, my poster board, I'm sorry. I hope you can see this here. Over here, I have the Cleveland Public School Systems, and that's where we are here in Ohio. And here, they rank, I did three districts. I did Cleveland East, Cleveland West, and then I also did, they're all public schools, but I also did what they call preparatory schools. So I have here that, you can see this, I apologize. This board is so big. Well, first of all, the design here, it says quality education, and it's in the form of a question mark, because I want to know is that our children really receiving quality education, because it really is important, because they are our future. So they need to be prepared for the future, for the things that may arise. But in order for them to do that, they have to increase their reading and their math skills, and especially reading, because it's really important. Okay, now they rank here, Cleveland East, I have here, I have it categorized according to the test scores. Cleveland East, they rank 4%. That's 1 out of 10. And they're considered to be 100% low income. Okay, now Cleveland West, that's comprised of 30% low income and 7% minorities. Now they're in the 89% range, which is 9 out of 10, according to the state test. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it around a little bit more so you can see here. I need to lift it up. Oh, that's a little better. Okay, now just looking at the chart alone, the table will tell you that it's a mismatch. I mean, they're all in the state of Ohio. They're going by the same regulations, except for the funding. The funding comes down to the number of minorities that's in a school district, the low income, the race, and the school size. Okay, so they fall into almost the same category except for Cleveland West. Now, I was wondering why that would be, and it is because the funding. All the schools does not have the same resources. Okay, so they don't have the same resources, such things as computers, actual textbooks, even the regular supplies that's needed to complete to actually have a successful day. Okay, now they do stress the importance of the test. I spoke with two kids in the Cleveland public systems, and they test at least 3 times out of a semester for English, which they call ELA, is reading, and then also for math. Now, their reading scores are very low. Okay, and that's just, I'm talking about in Ohio, in the school district. Okay, so now I understand the emphasis on quality education. You know, I understand that it's supposed to be for all Americans in the United States. But if you don't have the adequate funds or the adequate funding or resources to supply that, and that's from a teacher or school's or administration's point of view, you know, how the kids are, how are the children going to receive that? Okay, so now nationally, according to the state, Ohio, we're here. I highlighted in green. That's my little flowers that I have here. Now, nationally in Ohio, for minorities, is 79% Hispanic and 68% African American. Okay, and for this here, this is the proficiency level. It states that it's performing, the students are performing or at their state's proficiency level. Okay, now that's well and fine overall, but here, when I go into the schools, each individual school website, and that's where I got this here from greatschools.org. Their staff, they have a website that keeps everyone informed on the test scores, the funding that the schools receive, and that's why I have the statistics there, that the resources is that each school district has makes it a little uneven. You know, it's not universal, is what I'm saying, you know. So how can education be universal if they don't have the same funds and sources here? Now, this is what I was telling you about the annual yearly percentage. This is according from the state, and these are the school percentages. Which, if you go across Ohio, there's nothing there. This is all public schools annual percentage, annual yearly progress, and there's nothing there. Okay, well, set this aside for a second. Stay there, post board. So the schools here are what I want to say. it hasn't gotten any better as far as the state test. They have increased a little, but not enough, well, according to the state regulations. Okay, and like I said, I believe one of the reasons for that is the funding and the resources that the different districts have, even though they may be close as far as minorities, low income, they're all public schools, but the test scores from east to west, Cleveland East, 1 out of 10. Cleveland West, 9 out of 10. So that tells me here, looking at my graph, that something is drastic. That's a very drastic change. And if you look at the different on the websites, and that's what I did, I checked out the report cards for each school on greatschools.org, and that was as of 2016. And then I also read an article by Nancy O'Brien, the Assistant Director of Government Relations, and she indicated also that there may be need some fine tuning, tweaking, or something in the laws when it comes to the funding and the standards that they set across the states. Because nationally, they have rules here in Florida that is not the same as here in Ohio. So the percentage level is different, like it's like on a curve. So how can that be fair? Is not, So if the schools aren't equipped with the resources needed to achieve in reading and math and science skills, if they're not equipped with the tools, how are they going to be prepared for these state tests? Okay, and not only are they for poor or minority students, it's in most of them are in neighborhoods that the conditions are not that well. So you have to take into account for there are all kind of reasons and circumstances that are not the same, even though it is in the same district. Like I made a comparison with East and West. That's two totally different environments. Even though they may have minorities there, which they do, but it's a small percentage. Okay, and they have different resources that are available to them within their community that Cleveland East may not have. Okay, so even though there has been a slight improvement, it still needs work. Okay, and a lot of focus and pressure is put on the teachers and administrators because they do have that the new measure where they hold the schools responsible for the progress of the students. Okay, so they do push the children to score and to perform high on their reading and math and science tests for the state. But it's not in the curriculum as it should be, which I believe it should be on a daily basis. Instead of putting a lot of information in at one time or cramming a lot of information in during testing time, I think it needs to be spread it out, you know. But the teachers are under so much pressure, and so is the administrators in those districts because they will fall below level, and that does affect their funding. So, I mean, if you're already in a district or in a school that is low on funds, you want to do as better on the standardized tests, so that it can increase your chances for getting grants. So it is a lot of pressure that is put on these teachers and the administration at the schools. I understand that, but and again, they can't do their jobs a lot of the times if they don't have the adequate resources or tools or equipment that they need to make the kids, to help the kids be successful in reading, math, or science. So yeah, that's another issue too. But I believe that it will get better and it can get better. But like Nancy O'Brien said, with this education bill, it needs to be tweaked or fine-tuned, because right now it's different standards for different curves for different areas, different states, and it's supposed to be a national thing. So I think that they need to go back and find another method for distribution, as far as funding, as far as resources, and as far as the scores for the test itself. So yeah, that's my input on this situation. And like I said, my kids are grown now, but I have grandchildren. Now when my kids were in middle school and high school, they had state testing also, and they used to give them incentives, to score high, or to do the best that they could, you know, for these state tests. But they have changed, and that was over, oh my goodness, 20 years or so. But the education bills are steady changing, and that's understandable. With each presidential administration, it may be a little different. But I think my main concern is that it's for the kids, and they are our future. And if they're going to supply a quality education for all Americans in the USA, I think that that's a beautiful thing. But it needs to be uniform. It needs to go across the board. There can't be different curves or different circumstances for different states, because the numbers are never going to add up. Okay, so yeah, I think that it's a good program. Um, it just need to be uh, it needs to be reevaluated. That's what I'll say. And it's good that they do have these measures, new measures in place. Like I said, it does place a lot of pressure on the schools and the teachers and administration. And yeah, and if they had the tools and the resources and the funding, I believe they can do a better job. So that's my intake on um, the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. I hope things get better, and yeah, thank you.